Hello, good afternoon. It is just after 12 here on this cold winter's day in the UK. My name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator and I live sort of fairly centrally UK, Northamptonshire sort of way. And I know some people in the country have had some snow today, but we haven't got snow. We're just cold, and I've still got cold feet. I think I had cold feet last week, but never mind. We will keep snuggly enough to do some crafting. If you are joining me from wherever in the world, do pop on, whether you are living it up in tropical heat or whether, like us, you are a little bit shivery in the cold. It's always lovely to have you. And despite the fact that it's the middle of the day and the sun is shining, it is quite dim here and sort of a little bit dark here in my craft room today. So I have popped some lights on and I'll put a few more on in a minute. But first, let me introduce myself a little bit more if you've not come across me before. As I say, my name is Helen. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator, have been for the past 10 years. This is my website, so Love-a-Duckie.co.uk. That's where you're going to find all things Stampin' Up, whether that's blog posts, and they have been a little bit more frequent over the last couple of weeks, or whether you're looking for links for classes. I do quite a few on in-person classes here in the Northamptonshire area of the UK. If you would love to come and join me for some of those, or indeed if you're in the UK and would be interested in some cards being sent out during the classes being sent out during the post, do get in touch. We can organise that. So this is where you'll find all those sorts of things, as well as links to shops and downloads and ways of signing up for my newsletter. And all of those sorts of things you can find here in my central hub, and wherever you're looking for me on social media, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest. Look out for Love-a-Duckie, and hopefully there you will find me. And I did say about those classes that are coming up. So here's some that are coming up in the near future. They're not necessarily in order because I've just been replacing some pictures, been replacing classes that have passed with ones that are coming. So the next class up on the calendar is actually this one on the third one on this slide, which is the technique class using braille techniques, which have got coming up this Friday. And I still haven't changed the date on there. So ignore the fact that it says the 29th of September. It most certainly is not the 29th of September 2023. It is going to be whatever it is on Friday. What would that be? The 15th of January 2024. I'm just grabbing a post-it note to remind myself to change the date, although the chances are the class will be over before I get round to changing that date, won't it? But yeah, so that's this Friday, 15th. So I haven't cut the kits yet for that. So if you would like to sneak in under the radar and come and join me here in Northamptonshire to do some braille techniques using the brand new Stampin' Up braille, or any braille that you've got, really. I should be using the brand new Stampin' Up braille. But if you have a braille that you've had for a good number of years, like many of us have, then hopefully that will bring it out from the cupboard and get you using it again. So that's this Friday. The Saturday Stampers for beginning of February, we're going to be loving spring. So we're going to be doing some spring sort of themed projects. So whether that's Valentine's or Mother's Day or just spring birthdays, we're going to be using a variety of products to create some spring cards, some spring fresh projects. So Saturday Stampers is an all-day event, 10 till 3, again based here in Northamptonshire, and I create 10 projects. You have a kit that would enable you to create 10 projects, but what you actually create on the day is up to you. You get all of the instructions for those 10 projects, but you can mix and match and create what you like. And I've often got other inspiration of things I've created using the stamp sets and things that we're using as well. So that is Saturday Stampers, always a lovely day. And the monthly card club, I have one of my ladies frequently tells me that this is her favourite class of the month. So you get a kit with paper and ribbon and embellishments in it normally. And using that kit, we make 5 different cards. So that is the monthly card club. And the one for February is going to be using the stunningly beautiful perennial lavender suite. So if you would like to join me for that, do get signed up. Let's have a look. So the next Stamper Stack class, so that's the end of January, that is going to be using the Stippled Roses bundle, which is a rather beautiful stamp and die bundle in the new mini catalogue. We're going to be using that to create 6 different cards. It'll be 3 each of 2 different designs. So come along for that if you would like to come along and create 6 lovely cards. That one is on the 25th of January, so that is a week on Thursday. And then Saturday Stampers for March, because we're looking that far ahead, is going to be on the theme of yum yum, because we're going to be using some foodie based stamps and dies and things and papers or whatever to create some scrummy food themed cards for different occasions. So do come and sign up to come and join us for that at the beginning of March, the 2nd of March. It's always the first Saturday of the month. And then there's also in February, we have our next Stamp Camp, and the Stamp Camp is a collaboration of 13 different demonstrators from around the world, Canada, USA, Australia, New Zealand. There's a couple of us here in the UK and a lady from the Netherlands. So 13 of us from around the world. We create 13 different projects to go into a tutorial for which you get the make and take kit. You get all the cardstock to enable you to make those 13 projects, and in addition to that you get added into an exclusive Facebook group where we make 13 more beautiful projects using the nature's sweetness from the Nature Sweetness suite, but it is just one of the stamps and dies from there, and the Notes of Nature stamps and dies that we're going to be using from that suite. All you need to do is purchase the kit with the bundle, the paper, the ribbon and the embellishments. You purchase the products and we give you the projects. I've got Ruby the dog behind me. I'm not quite sure what she's doing. She sounds like she's tap dancing with clogs on, but I don't think she is. She's just sitting herself down. She's come to join us for our crafty session. So those are the classes that are coming up. The other things that are happening in January, obviously we have celebration, and celebration means that you get freebies. So if you shop with me and spend £45 or over, you get freebies. If you host an event and your event generates sales of £275 or more, you get freebies. And if you join, you get extra freebies in your starter kit. So freebies all the way with celebration. Obviously, we've got the new mini catalogue that has launched and 2 new kits, both of which are perfect for the younger people. If you're crafting with younger people, they're perfect for any age, but particularly good if you are crafting with younger people. We've got the U-Rock one that is great for sort of teenagers, tweenagers, with guitars and drums and sorts of things, and then a really sweet little card kit with pandas. So either great to give as gifts to young people in your life or to craft with young people in your life. Just great kits. So do check those out. So I think that's enough news for now. I'm sure that we shall throw some more in as we go along. But today we're going to have a bit of a technique themed live. So I'm going to be using a couple of different stamp sets, but we're going to be having a bit of a play with a technique rather than a specific bundle. Let me pop this light on. Let me bring in my downward facing camera. And wow, how amazing is that? I'm sure you've taken one look at that and you've got really excited. It is actually a pack of vellum. Vellum is just this pack of vellum, and there's all my oddments of vellum in that little packet just there. So we might need some of those as well, or might be able to dig into some of those. But A4 vellum cardstock, they call it. It's not really, you know, it is quite thick, thicker than, it feels stiffer than standard paper. Whether I'd actually call it cardstock, I'm not sure. But this is just white vellum. And you can do so many lovely things with vellum. You can emboss on it. You can heat emboss on it. You can run it through your embossing folders. That always looks lovely. You can use it as just elements in your project, so things like leaves and things, adding little bits, or perhaps a stitched circle behind a particular element that you're putting on your card. Lots of lovely ways that you can use vellum, but today we're going to be thinking about using vellum but adding some colour to it, so it is not just clear white vellum, it is a colour of some sort. Let's have a little look at what oddments I've got in here. I'm going to pick this bit, I think, because that one looks as if it's a little bit crumpled. And it won't be that I won't use it, but perhaps just not today. Let me turn this mat over. That will be a little bit better. It's not quite so many coloured bits and pieces on there. So we're going to start with a piece of vellum and look at a couple of different ways that we can add some colour to it. So to start with, I'm going to take this vellum and I'm going to cut it, I think, to, let's have a piece that is 13.9. Move that to one side by 9.5. So for us here using metric cardstock, that would be our third size mat. So you'd have a standard card base, a mat underneath, and then this would be your next size down mat. Now it's really exciting, isn't it? Because you can hardly see that on there. I promise you. There is something on my mat just here. It is a piece of vellum cardstock. Now I'm just perusing my ink colours. I think I'm going to go for Azure Afternoon. I've got Azure Afternoon. I've also got one of my grandson's old muzzies here. Don't tell him. Shh, he still loves his muzzies. But this is one that my daughter was having a sort out and was overrun with them. So that was one. But they're really useful for cleaning up sort of crafty bits. I'm going to take this Azure Afternoon ink pad and I'm actually just going to rub it across this vellum. It's nice and inky, isn't it? So it is a very inky ink pad. I'm actually going to take this cloth and rub over the top of it, taking off quite a bit of the excess on the top. Right, so now we have a nice blue piece of vellum. I'll give that a bit of a burst with my heat tool. Just not putting it on high, I'm just putting it on the first level. The thing about vellum is ink does take a little while to dry on it. It's not an instant thing. I'm just going to give that a little bit of a heat just to help set that ink a little bit. Move this out. I'm going to sit it on my glass mat for a moment. Now that's gone nice and fuzzy, hasn't it? The vellum on the glass mat. Right, I'm going to take the Azure Afternoon again. And I'm going to take a blending brush. I think I'm going to have a little one. And try not to hold my vellum as much as possible because then you get finger marks on it. I'm going to come in and add in some more. Adding in darker patches of the blue over the top there. A little bit just on this corner. Right, let's bring in it's somewhere. I've just got a scrap of white paper. There's my trimmer. That's better. You still see the words underneath on that paper a little bit, but you can just see where you're getting that sort of darker shading on there. So it's not just come in again, I think a little bit darker. Build that up. Let's see if I've got a slightly, just grab a piece of copy of paper that hasn't been printed on. That's better. So you can see how you've got sort of almost mottly effect that gives a nice sort of sky effect. We could come in with possibly other blues or other colours on there. We could come in and you can see where I've had a finger just there, look. You could come in and take some ink off of areas and make it paler. For now, I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to give it another bit of a blast. Let's come down a little bit on the heat on there. And let's just give that a bit of a blast and try and just give that ink a bit of a set. So that's quite a nice sort of sky effect, to which I'm going to bring a cloud punch, I think. Now the cloud punch is very definitely still on my shelf. I'm just double checking that it's still. Yes, it is indeed still a current item. I thought it was, otherwise it wouldn't be on my shelf. But there we are, the cloud punch. So let's bring that in. Now we could, decisions. Are we going to come in with white clouds or vellum clouds? Indeed, a mixture of the two. I might go with a mixture of the two. Let's have another vellum cloud. And another white cloud. Two's never a good number in crafting, is it? We might not need a whole third one, but I think we'll come in with partial third cloud. That's rather fun, isn't it? And the nice thing about having those on the top is that that's going to give us somewhere to stick our vellum underneath. So I'm just going to add a bit of adhesive to there, and then we can add a bit of adhesive to there. We want to make sure that our adhesive doesn't go behind where there's just vellum, because that will show through onto the other side. So it doesn't matter where the adhesive goes on our white cloud, but it does matter on our vellum cloud. Let's have that here somewhere, and then this one we'll have just popping up on the bottom here. Let's take some scissors and let's trim off any excess cloud. There. Oh, that's moved. Excuse me. There we go. Right. I'll find a to go. See how big that is. Right, trimmer. Let's retrieve it from the floor. Perfect. So we want a piece that is a piece of basic white. It is. Oh, that's not quite big enough. Let me find another piece of basic white. I thought that that was big enough, but it's not quite. Let's take a piece and cut it to 14.4 by 10. So this is a first size mat. That would be 4 inches by 5 1/4 if you were using. Oh, come on off of there. If you were using imperial letter size cardstock. So we'll have that coming onto a white mat, and then we'll have an azure afternoon card base. And let's cut this in half. And let's turn it round and let's score it in half. And that same basic principle applies wherever you are to make your standard card base. Piece of card, cut it off and score it in half. And depending on whether you make it, cut it across that way or cut it down that way, will depend on whether it's a book fold card or a tent fold card. There we go. So we have our vellum, we have our clouds on the top. So we have coloured our vellum using ink. So the first layer we just smooshed our ink pad across, and then we've used our blending brush to add darker patches over the top. And as always, when you're colouring vellum, it actually comes out paler. If we were to turn this over, that would probably be paler still. So we can use either side really. But there we have that. Now in order to attach this vellum to this cardstock, I'm going to add some glue under where these clouds are. Again, concentrating on where the punched card clouds are rather than where the vellum clouds are. Let's stick that down. I'm going to hang on a bit in case I want to add any twine or anything, but let's pop that to one side because we want something to go on top. So we have our clouds, our sky. So what better than a flying duck? So this is the feathered flight stamp set, and a couple of my customers said to me as soon as we saw that in the online exclusives, we knew you were going to be using it. Well, obviously it is ducks. Of course I'm going to be using it. I'm going to use this lovely flying duck for this one. Now let's have a think. What shall we use? Let's use a Dotty Everyday Details die. I am loving these dies. To get out my brush, it has still got some dots left in there. Let's get those out. I think that's it. Right, so I'm going to take a few afternoon oddments here, so hopefully there's a big enough piece. Yes, and then I'm going to take this one. Now what this die does, it will cut the dotted detail into the cardstock, but it cuts in this centerpiece, so you'll have a frame with dotted details, and then you'll also have a circle with dotted details, but I'm going to want the bigger one. I've not actually checked. I don't think any of the circle punches are big enough, not quite, to cut that out. But if we go to the oh, excuse me, got a bit of a tickle. We go to the stylish shapes. And that will cut out the smaller one. That will cut out the bigger one. Let's see how that works, if that's going to be too big. We will see. Should be able to run those through together. Perfect. Just going to take a little bit of tape and pop that on there. Pop that on there, just so that that doesn't move as it goes through and the two dies cut into each other. Right, let's cut out some dots and see where we go from there. Right, here we have a little dotty frame. How does that sit on there? Sort of got those dots just peeking out underneath. But we're going to want the slightly of course I've given myself a frame, haven't I? Wasn't thinking particularly clearly there. Or do we just go with smaller dots on the inside? We'll have a think about that. Or let's go back to the drawing board. There's nothing like indecision and having a play and practicing things as we go. I'm going to take these two dies and I'm actually going to make myself an azure afternoon frame rather than a white frame. I do love this frame. It's rather lovely, isn't it? With the sort of dotty bit on the inside and the stitched bit on the outside. What have I done to that phone? Right, I'm going to run this through in the machine again and get a blue dotty frame. I'm going to use that blue dotty frame with this white piece just there. Duck is going to need to be cut out and added to the top. So he is slightly bigger, I think. Having a rummage in the background here, or amongst my Stamping Right markers. We want crushed curry. So I've got Pretty Peacock, Shaded Spruce, Azure Afternoon, and crushed curry. So I'm going to start with his beak. We're going to make that crushed curry. I think I'm going to come in Pretty Peacock for this headpiece and this neck. Let's come in with a bit of your afternoon, sort of around this. So I'm keeping looking back onto my picture on the front as a guide for where to add these different colours. It's coming down here. I'm going to have a bit more pretty peacock down here. I'll have some shaded spruce. Coming in on these wings. So it's not going to be a come in just with pretty peacock and add in a little bit of pretty peacock there as well. Let's find a piece of white cardstock. Let's give this, so we've coloured it all in the various pieces on the wings and the body, using the picture just here as a guide. I'm now going to give it a good huff, because as always, when you colour direct to stamp, you need to give it a good huff to revitalise your ink, because it might have started to dry out a little bit. Just colour a little bit of ink on my pad just there. And pick that up with a blending brush. Add a bit more of this Your Afternoon ink. Same, just coming over here with my blending brush. Got my black here. Bring in some black just there and add in a dot of his eye. Bit of a squiggle. You can't see that, but I've just squiggled some with my pen onto my glass mat. These are why glass mats are just so brilliant. I'm just using that. I've got pretty peacock here. Could have used shaded spruce as well, but just add some detail in there. So there he is. There's our little flying duck. Let's bring in our scissors and let's fussy cut a duck. Just take out some of the bulk of that card. And let's come on round here. sort of slightly wiggling around these feathers. So this is a lovely stamp set. So you've got the, so we've used the flying duck just here, sort of with wings outstretched. You've got this duck just here that looks like they're coming in to land. You've got the pair of ducks swimming just here, the little ducks up there. And you've got sort of the pond with the bit of pond, with a bit of the grasses and some rocks down the bottom there. And a few little greetings. Let's have our duck flying in the middle just there. It's rather cute. Make sure that all of our holes are clear. We've not got any little bits stuck in there. Come on out. One more. So that's the outside bit. They all look like they're free. So I think I am now going to stick this down. Let's add some adhesive to our outer circle, decide where we want that. Up there, I think. Let's come in with our inner circle. We'll pop that in just there. I'm going to come in with my big block and just give that a press. Stick that down. And then we've got our flying duck. Let's give him a little bit of a shape his wings a little bit and find him some dimensionals, I think. Oh, just dropped. Always dropping something. That was circle dies I've just dropped just there. I think I'm going to come in with some mini dimensionals. Just going to take that blending brush. It's got a little bit of ink on it. Just add a bit of a tickle to that circle. It's not quite so starkly white. Let's put one on your head. On your head, son. There we go. Have him coming in like that. And then how about an I'm glad you're in my life. That's quite a nice sentiment, isn't it? I'd be quite happy to receive something from somebody that said, I'm glad you're in my life. Let's bring in these scissors again. Let's cut round here. And I think we'll pop some dimensionals under there too. To pop that up. Got a nice lot of blue ink all over my thumb now. Right. We'll definitely need a white insert to go inside this card. I've cut that down to 13.9 by 9.5, which is the second size mat for us here. Just going to take the image that's got the pond and the rocks and things on. I'm just going to add that to the inside just there. And decisions. That'd be quite fun. Now those blue sequins. Let's have a few of those. Scattered round there. I've got a piece of basic white thread here to cut to about that long. Not sure what about that long is. Let's have a look. About 9 inches. I haven't got centimetres on my class mat. If you've got a Stampin' Up one, or if you join and become part of the Stampin' Up family, you'll get one that has metric on it. I'm going to take my Your Afternoon stamping blend. I'm just going to add some colour to my white. That's a good thing about white. You can make it whatever colour you want to. You can also do this with an ink pad. Could have used my Stampin' Right markers. You just get a bit more of an instant dry with the Stampin' Blend. Let's turn this into a bit of a notch. When we've tied our bow, we see some obvious white bits. You can always colour them. Trim those ends off a little bit. Come in with a blue dot. If I wasn't blue before, I definitely am now. I would come in with a glue dot. If I could find a glue dot, let's get rid of all of that excess strip. And let's add in that bow just there. So, one way of colouring vellum is just to add ink. So we just swiped our ink over and then used our blending brush to add a bit more to get that sort of sky colour on that vellum on this background just here. We've used some white vellum for our cloud just here, which actually, as it sits on the blue, doesn't look white vellum. It looks a slightly lighter shade of blue. Nearly didn't get that out, did I? A slightly lighter shade of blue. So there's one way of colouring vellum. Let's quickly see if we can add in a second way. So the next other stamp set that I've got here is the Sea Turtle stamp set. So this is actually a reversible stamp set. Excuse me, you can hear Ruby just getting a little bit agitated because she can hear somebody coming in, but it is actually my husband who's had half a day today. So that's who's coming in. We are not being raided by unknown creatures. Is that turtle going to fit on there? You might just, although I might take, so if we've got a slightly bigger bit, that bit possibly would work. Yes. So I'm going to take an embossing mat. There she goes again, being very protective. And then she'll run around with a toy in her mouth, greatly excited that somebody's come in. So her bark and her fuss is far worse than she makes it sound far worse than it is. I'm being savage, but here I am with a fluffy pink dragon. Please give me attention. Right, so we have, we did rub that with our embossing buddy, didn't we? Yes. So busy listening up for Ruby. And there we go. There is one turtle. She's just run in because she'd obviously left her toy here. Run back out again. Right, so I'm going to take silver embossing powder and scatter on that Versamark. Give that a bit of a flick. I'm going to take a paintbrush, just brush off this excess. Okay, so there we have our turtle with his silver embossing powder on him. Let me take my heat tool and just heat this up. Now, being vellum, it will turn much quicker than it would on normal card, that very hastily turns to a beautiful silver turtle. Now for this turtle, I'm going to take, come in, Pretty Peacock again. Might use that as your afternoon actually. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn him over so that I'm adding colour on the reverse, and I'm going to use my stamping blends. And let's come. And then this is the darker of the Azure Afternoons. As I said earlier, when you colour on vellum, it does come through, particularly when you're colouring on the back like this, it will come through the other side. A paler shade, so I'm going with the dark one. And it still takes a little while for it to dry, but because they are the alcohol markers, the alcohol evaporates relatively quickly. That's the back. We turn it over, you can see that blue coming through on the front there. And go over it again. There's the blue shining through. Let's come in with some Pretty Peacock again. I'm going to use the darker shade. Just going to colour all over here, although it won't necessarily show through where it's embossed. At least you can see that you've coloured all over. Around the outside here. And going over it sort of a second time, just to darken it a little bit. Turn that over. And then you've got that blue and green turtle with his silvery shell. And then let's cut him out. And dump. There he is, looking rather resplendent. Nice shiny blue green turtle. So you've just got that colour peeking through in between those silver embossing. But I've got a cascading ruffles die just there. And let's grab some pretty peacock card base, I think. So I cut that so that it would be the equivalent of half of a piece of cardstock. Let's take a piece of 10 by 14.4 Azure Afternoon, seeing as they're the colours we've used. And I'm going to pop that through my die cutting machine with this Cascading Ruffles 3D embossing folder, because that gives us a nice sort of wavy look to it. As with all 3D embossing folders, we just need our number 1 base plate, then our embossing folder with our card in it, and last but by no means least, our number 4 plate. And if you purchase a Stampin' Up! Cut and emboss machine, you get all of these plates with it. You can also buy additional plates if you should need to replace them for any reason. The borrowers run off with one, or your acrylic plates you will need to replace periodically because they are a consumable. They do eventually crack. I'm going to take my white craft ink And I'm just going to gently rub that over this embossed card and just pick up some foam on those waves. We're going to need something to put down for our turtle to sit on. Let's pop that down first. Makes a nice sort of sea background, doesn't it? That embossing folder. Ruby. Sorry, slight panic that I thought we'd lost the dog, but apparently she's in somewhere. Right, I'm going to take this just here and a piece of Pretty Peacock. She is definitely in. That's all right then. I could just hear a dog barking in the background and it gave me a bit of a panic that where was she? She's still inside. Just die cut this. So what I've got here is a bit of a frame that went a bit wonkier than I'd like it to. Take my big scissors and cut around the edge of that. And then we've got a dotty Pretty Peacock frame. And let's take a bit of basic white and cut this die again, so that will give us then a white insert piece. I am loving these dies. The only thing is you do get left with lots of little dots on your cutting mat. Evens our white inner. Again, I think, where's that first one that's got just a little bit of ink on it? Just be enough to add a bit of colour to that centrepiece. And we'll be able to add in our turtle. I'm going to stick it directly onto this frame, so I'm just adding some spots of glue where the silver embossing is on the other side. And add that to our white dotty rectangle. And we'll come in with some dimensionals, I think, on the back of there. I'll use up some of these edge pieces, just breaking those off. You can, of course, use your scissors. We'll glue this bit down flat, just because it would be quite hard to get dimensionals on there. I have, as I said before, this is multi-purpose adhesive in here, the Tombow glue, and I've just transferred it to a fine-tipped bottle, because it does make jobs like adding glue to the edges of dotty frames a little bit easier. And we don't have any sentiments in the turtle set. I think we'll go with a thinking of you. And we'll go Pretty Peacock. Got very inky hands now. Looking for the scissors, which are right under my nose. Still wonky. Let's trim that down, and then I'm going to take a little bit of pretty peacock. Trim that round so it's got a bit of a border. Take a bit of the silver ribbon. Let's tie a bit of a bow with that, and then we'll add that in down there. Come in with the glue dot again. I'm going to add that bow where it meets the corner of the frame. Then we'll come in with some dimensionals. I'm going to put a couple of bits that end and another bit the other end, and then hopefully that will bridge the bulk of that bow quite nicely. Oh, stay. Did that bit come off? Yes. Come in with some pretty peacock sequins on this one, I think. Put a couple of extra. We'll go a bit mad. Let's put them down there. I think we'll have one in there. Put those away so I don't lose them. So let's clear the decks a little bit. We've got Stampin' Right markers, we've got stamping blends, we've got embossing powder. We've had it all going on. So quite a lot of techniques in these cards, but the technique that we were actually concentrating on is a couple of different ways that you can colour vellum, and we've used sort of more or less the same colours. So there's a lot of Azure Afternoon and some pretty peacock. So this one was colouring this background piece of vellum using ink, and we did a bit of colouring direct to stamp on that one, and this one is using our Stampin' Right markers to colour the back of our vellum sea turtle before adding him. And we did a bit of swiping of white ink over the top of. Dear oh dear, I must keep knocking this phone flying. It's on a right old wonk. So there we go. Two different cards, both exploring different ways of colouring vellum and using a couple of different stamp sets. The Sea Turtle stamp set, which is a photopolymer reversible stamp set, but we didn't use the reversible technique this time. We just coloured the back of our stamp, and the other one was, which has gone hiding under piles of bits, was the Feathered Flight, which is one of the stamp sets that you will find as part of the online exclusives. So I hope you're going to go off and explore different ways that you can um, colour your vellum. So yeah, don't just think of it as just the one white, slightly off-white colour. There's lots that you can do with vellum, and colouring it is just one of those things. So thank you for joining me today. Do like, share, follow, do all of those things. And if you have a go at colouring vellum and creating projects, then do share them with me. Either send me a message, send me a picture, or pop a picture underneath this video. Let us know what you've been doing to colour with vellum. It's always lovely to see what you've been inspired to have a go at. So I look forward to seeing you again at the end of the week. So I'll be back on for a video will go up on Friday. So I look forward to that. But in the meanwhile, enjoy your crafting and keep warm and keep safe.